Iran's nuclear program, once deemed a dire threat to global security,
US President Trump's letter to Iran seeking a new nuclear deal
is now quietly becoming one of the most powerful tools in reshaping the world's geopolitical order.
And it is time for Iran to walk away to have a nuclear weapon.
In a world where the West has long held the reins of power, Iran, a country long isolated and vilified, is positioning itself at the heart of a new multipolar world. One where Russia and China are standing shoulder to shoulder with it, challenging the status quo. This isn't just about nuclear bombs or military might. It's about global influence, independence, and a fundamental shift in how international power is distributed. As global power dynamics change, Iran's nuclear ambitions are no longer simply a security issue. They're a symbol of the new global order. But how is the US letting this slide? Let's find out. The US has long viewed Iran's nuclear program as one of the most pressing threats to global security. This concern, while not unfounded, often fails to grasp the deeper geopolitical shifts at play. Recently, the US has once again accused Iran of orchestrating military operations through the Houthis in Yemen and the Red Sea, portraying Iran as the central destabilizing force in the region. This rhetoric fits neatly into the narrative the West has maintained for decades. Iran is the enemy of global peace, and its nuclear ambitions are merely the tip of the iceberg. But as the global power landscape continues to shift, this narrow perspective is increasingly outdated. Iran, for its part, has shifted its narrative. Its nuclear program, which once sparked fear and urgency, is now viewed by Iran as a symbol of defiance. It's not just about building weapons or even about regional power. It's a direct challenge to the Western-dominated global order. While the US remains fixated on containing Iran's nuclear development through sanctions and military pressure, Iran has made it clear that it views its nuclear ambitions as an assertion of sovereignty and independence. For Iran's leadership, this is a matter of national pride and a refusal to bow to foreign-imposed constraints. And now, U.S. envoy says U.S. President Donald Trump's outreach to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, regarding a potential new nuclear deal is an effort to avoid military conflict, according U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. While the U.S. maintains its stance of maximum pressure on Iran, Witkoff emphasized that the U.S. prefers a diplomatic resolution and is prepared for dialogue, should Iran be open to it. However, Khamenei rejected the offer, calling the U.S. proposal a deception. Despite this, Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi hinted at a response, signaling that negotiations could be possible under the right conditions. But let's not forget that Iran is not standing in a weak position. Iran's nuclear ambitions are part of a much larger geopolitical strategy. Over the years, Iran has used its nuclear program as a stepping stone to build a network of alliances with non-Western powers, including Russia and China. These partnerships are a direct counterbalance to U.S. influence in the region and globally. The U.S. sees Iran's nuclear program as a threat to its interests in the Middle East, but Iran views these accusations as part of a broader effort to isolate and weaken its sovereignty. In this context, nuclear development becomes not just a military issue, but a geopolitical one, an essential element in Iran's bid to challenge Western dominance. But Iran's nuclear strategy is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The U.S. continues to frame Iran's nuclear ambitions within a Cold War-like containment strategy. But Iran's response is far more sophisticated. It's a statement of intent, one that declares Iran's place in a multipolar world where it is no longer dictated to by Western powers. The real question isn't whether Iran will develop nuclear weapons. It's what the rise of Iran, with its nuclear ambitions, means for the future of global governance and the balance of power. While the U.S. fixates on Iran's nuclear program, Russia and China have adopted an entirely different approach. Rather than isolating Iran, these nations have increasingly become Iran's closest allies, recognizing that the shifting global order requires a new form of cooperation. Russia, with its history of countering Western influence, has long seen Iran as a valuable partner in the Middle East. China, with its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, views Iran as a key player in its plans to expand its economic and strategic influence throughout Asia and the Middle East. In 2025, these nations took a significant step forward in their partnership. They held joint military exercises, notably the Maritime Security Belt 2025 in the Persian Gulf, marking the fifth time in just a few years that Iran, Russia, and China had joined militarily. This was more than a show of strength. It was a sign that these countries were building a new security architecture that didn't rely on Western dominance. By engaging in military cooperation, these nations are asserting a new order where diplomacy, not military threats, drives international relations. This shift represents more than just military partnerships. It is part of a larger strategy to form alternative economic and security systems that are not dependent on Western institutions like the United Nations or NATO. Iran's inclusion in these alliances signals the emergence of a new multipolar world order, where countries that have long been excluded from Western-centric power structures are now asserting their influence on the global stage. In contrast to the West's approach of isolation and sanctions, China and Russia have embraced diplomacy as their primary tool for engaging with Iran. This was evident in March 2025, when the three countries met in Beijing to discuss the Iranian nuclear issue. The outcome of the meeting was significant. Rather than pressuring Iran into compliance with Western demands, the nations involved reaffirmed their commitment to the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA), a deal meant to curb Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. What makes this development noteworthy is that it demonstrates a fundamental difference in diplomatic style. While the West continues to demand compliance through economic pressure and the threat of military action, Russia and China are pursuing engagement. They understand that the path to global stability is not through isolation, but through cooperation, dialogue, and mutual respect. For China, this is particularly significant, as it not only strengthens its relationship with Iran, but also positions itself as a leader in promoting a new, more inclusive approach to global diplomacy. Beijing's involvement in these talks also signals its growing role as a global mediator, a position the West has traditionally held. By facilitating these discussions, China is setting the stage for a future where it plays a central role in global security and diplomacy. The diplomatic success of these talks, while modest in their immediate impact, represents a broader challenge to Western-led frameworks and highlights the importance of multilateral diplomacy in the 21st century. One of the most significant developments in recent years has been Iran's admission into BRICS, the economic and political coalition. This membership marks a dramatic shift in Iran's foreign policy, signaling its growing alignment with emerging global powers that are challenging Western hegemony. For BRICS, Iran is an essential ally, especially as it seeks to challenge the dominance of the US and European powers in global economic and political systems. Iran's membership in BRICS is a testament to the shifting global landscape. By aligning itself with this coalition, Iran is asserting its role as a key player in reshaping global governance. The country is no longer just a regional actor. It is now part of a broader movement to build a multipolar world order, one where power is distributed more equally across emerging markets and non-Western countries. As a member of BRICS, Iran gains access to economic markets, investment opportunities, and diplomatic backing from countries that share its vision for a new global order. The support from Russia and China, two of the most powerful BRICS members, ensures that Iran can continue to resist Western pressures and strengthen its position in the global geopolitical landscape. At the heart of this transformation lies Iran's nuclear program, not just as a point of international contention, but as a symbol of the changing dynamics of global power. The nuclear issue has become the focal point of a larger struggle between an established Western-led order and the rise of a multipolar world where emerging powers like China, Russia, and Iran are taking the reins. Iran's pursuit of nuclear technology, while controversial, is less about weaponization and more about asserting its independence. The country's nuclear program represents its desire to break free from the constraints imposed by the West and assert its right to determine its future. It is also about sending a message. Iran will not be bullied, and it will not allow its future to be shaped by foreign powers. The West, this is a challenge to its dominance in the global system. Iran's nuclear program is not just about weapons, it's about global power dynamics and the way countries are redefining their relationships with one another. The rise of non-Western powers, exemplified by Iran's strategic alliances with Russia and China, marks the beginning of a new era in global politics, one where the old rules no longer apply. As the US continues its relentless criticism of Iran and attempts to isolate it, a far more significant transformation is quietly unfolding, one that Washington can't halt. While the West obsesses over Iran's nuclear program, a new global reality is emerging. The rise of a multipolar world where power is no longer dominated by Western nations. Iran, backed by strategic alliances with Russia and China, is positioning itself as a key player in this reshaped landscape. The West may try to apply sanctions, issue threats, and push for further isolation of Iran, but this will not stop the seismic shift underway. The BRICS coalition, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO), and increasingly influential countries like Iran are no longer willing to accept a system that is dictated by the US and its allies. The world is evolving, and the power dynamics that once favored the West are being replaced by more diverse, decentralized global leadership. The West's influence is diminishing, while nations like Iran, Russia, and China are laying the groundwork for a new order that prioritizes mutual respect, cooperation, and sovereignty. This multipolar world is already taking shape, and there's nothing the West can do to stop it. Do you think they lie when they call Iran a security threat? Why does the West want to keep all the power? Let us know in the comments section. Is it possible in 2025? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.